hide your kids and hide your wife, because what we're talking about today puts the God in goddamn. Woo! Makes me feel like a young lad. You know what? Feeling a little bit retro. So roll the retro intro. Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. We are here today to talk about the hidden goddess. The one that none of us knew about, lurking down there in the underworld for many, many aeons. We are talking today about Klothys? Klothys? I'm gonna say Klothys. I don't know, man. Some of these names are a little bit unwieldy. Klothys, and she is the god of destiny, goddess of destiny, however you want to put it. I don't know exactly what the end wording they're going to use on the card is, because at this point we only have some delicious snippets for this very interesting character. So I do not have the full card for you. What I have is the artwork, which we're going to take a look at now, and some cards associated with her. So we're going to talk about what she is and what that may mean magic card wise. Now you can see from the artwork here that I was very right about the scandalous nature of this art. Look at it. Look at it. She's massive. Look at that outfit. Just a couple of pieces of cloth barely even covering her. For somebody who's got cloth in her name, she sure ain't wearing a lot. All right. So Klothys, whatever, man. I'm gonna keep saying it all wrong. Who cares? Whatever. You know who I'm talking about. This is the god of destiny. She actually resided in the underworld up until now. Now, she may be the daughter of Erebos. It's not 100% clear. Basically, what Wizards is doing with Theros is they're leaning heavily on Greek mythology, and that makes perfect sense, honestly. Mythology has a lot of awesome storytelling devices used within it. Why not use them as crib notes? So, Klothys here is very clearly a parallel, at least to a degree, to Clotho, who was one of the Greek goddesses of fate. There was 3 of them. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the 3 fates, basically with the spinning wheel, where you have one who spins it up, and then you have one who measures it out, and one who cuts the threads of fate, right? That's the scenario, the concept underneath it all, that Klothys may represent entirely or just be one part of. That part is not clear. We don't know if Klothys has sisters and there will be like other goddesses of this nature coming up, or if she is actually going to represent all 3 conceptualized into one being, right? So the idea behind Klothys is she is the god of destiny. You can see the inspiration when I talked about the spinning wheel and everything like that. You can see that inspiration in the fact, it's kind of neat actually. They've turned her hair into the threads of fate. So it's her hair that actually determines the fate of not just mortals, but gods as well. You have to understand that when it comes to spinning the threads of fate, this also extends to gods. Now, remember, I am just basing this off of Greek mythology and Clotho, so we'll have to see exactly what the extent of Klothys's powers are in terms of, but it's the god of destiny, right? So in this kind of a situation, it's going to seem like, yes, you're going to have power over the destiny of gods as well, and essentially over the entirety of Theros. So you've got this, I mean, first of all, I absolutely love this outfit. I love that magic is returning to not being afraid to make like things that are a little racier, you know what I mean? Like that's something that I enjoyed from old school magic, and she is definitely not wearing much in the way of clothing. If you have watched my Force of Will videos, you will know I am appreciative of the female form. So to me, that's pretty cool, but that's just a side note. I like it when Wizards is willing to explore in all kinds of different ways with artwork. So this is cool. You're gonna give us Oko, we'll give us some of this action too. Spread it across the board, give everybody some eye candy. Anyhow, I find this character to be very striking. The idea of a god of destiny, a god of fate, who is at the same time kind of blind, right? Like her hair represents the threads of fate, but she's also got them kind of stretched across her eyes in that justice is blind kind of scenario. Now, I mentioned that she is one of, like, she could be one of 3 sisters. I don't know if they've decided to encapsulate this all as one goddess, but you will notice if you look at her head, there are 2 golden masks on either side. Now, those golden masks could theoretically represent her 2 other sisters. She could have 2 other sisters. They could represent all 3 actually being one being, or this could just be 2 different states of Klothys, essentially, where you have the one mask is blindfolded like she is, and the other isn't. So maybe she has the ability at some points to be unmasked and other times to be masked. Either way, it's very striking and interesting. She's got these crazy horns coming out of her. She's got 2 sets of horns coming out of her head, and she's got 2 horns coming off of her shoulders. So I guess theoretically, you could say this is, I'm going to beat you to making this comment in the comment section. I guess this is the horniest planeswalker, huh? You know, I know somebody would say it. I know somebody would say it. So she resided in the underworld, right? Now, we don't know what she was doing down there, but presumably she was actually controlling the fates of all living beings from down in the underworld. I do very much like the way that the whole threads of fate are actually woven into her weapons as well. You can see that her hair is flowing into the big kind of like gnarly part of her spear, and also in the little like hanging bladed weapons she's holding in her other hand that look kind of like pendulums of fate as well, but have that sort of blade at the bottom, like the sword of Damocles dangling above your head, and you have no idea when it's going to descend and destroy you, right? Overall, this is like a very cool concept from the whole fate spinner idea, and you can see she is definitely Nyxian, as she has that red Nyxian energy, the looking like she's made up of the night sky. I also like how around her spear, her hair has also got like the red tinges. It gives it more of a threatening aspect. Overall, I find the artwork to be very striking. I mean, clearly she looks good from behind, and you know that because if you look down in the right-hand corner, you can see even the building is smiling looking at her. Look at that big old smile on that temple. So, she resided in the underworld, but she escaped from the underworld. And her escaping from the underworld actually caused all kinds of problems to occur in terms of making the underworld more porous, more escapable, less of a containment unit and more of like a net with a bunch of holes in it where things can slide on through. So as a result of her leaving the underworld, that's why you can see the return of people like Elspeth. That's why we have the escape mechanic at all. All the different cards that are escaping from the underworld, it's all because of her influence. Now, why did she choose to leave the underworld after being there for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, right? She lived in the underworld for her entire existence. Again, we don't know if this is the daughter of Erebos or not, but I suspect that she is, and that's part of the reason that she spent her existence down in the underworld. But she's in charge of beings' fates. And what happened was Xenagos planeswalked over to Theros, right? And then Xenagos managed to invade the Pantheon and install himself as a god, albeit temporarily. But he installed himself as a god, and he caused massive amounts of chaos on Theros. Now, this presumably is what completely offset and messed up Klothys' plans, right? Klothys is the goddess of fate, theoretically either with sisters or on her own, and so she's responsible for determining the fate of all the living beings and all gods on Theros. So Xenagos comes along as an outside influence and completely contaminates everything. So at this point, Klothys decides to depart from the underworld to rectify everything. That's my understanding, and part of that understanding is based on the cards that are designed around her, right? I mean, we only have 2 cards really, and it's Furious Ryze. Furious Ryze is the card that makes me think that she is basically going out to fix what Xenagos has ruined. So Furious Ryze is 1 red, 2 colorless for an enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card until you exile another card with Furious Ryze. And the flavor text says, Klothys sent out to mend the destiny of Theros, her fury guiding every stitch. So we can see that this lends into the theory of, okay, Theros' destiny has clearly been corrupted. Zetas Ghost is the most likely culprit, although you could also argue that people like Elspeth and Ajani contributed to it as well, because they are planeswalkers that came to the plane. I mean, Elspeth obviously had a pretty big influence even before Zetas Ghost got destroyed. I mean, she took the Blade of Chaos. She showed up and left with a god-slaying device. So it's not like there was no other influence, but Zetas Ghost was definitely the most disruptive. Now you can see from the concept of the card as well that Klothys is going to care about big, beefy creatures, right? And she's going to gain, you're going to gain knowledge in exchange for that. That's the deal. Actually, I really love the flavor text saying, the part of the flavor text that says her fury guiding every stitch is really cool. In the artwork, you can see what looks like a very wrathful Klothys, and her hair, the thread of her hair is all whipping out like fiery lashes. Honestly, imagine this. Imagine witnessing this god rising from the underworld, her hair whipping around in a furious fire-filled frenzy. That's got some high-level intensity to it. So from this card, we can see that she is set out with a goal in mind. She is trying to return Theros to a state of balance, as is her duty. She's the god of destiny, and as a result, the destiny of Theros and all its inhabitants rests on her barely dressed shoulders. So for me, this obviously indicates that she is going to be red, but she's not going to be mono red if Klothys' design has anything to say about it. If you take a look at this sorcery here, 1 green, 5 colorless, creatures you control get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is your devotion to green. The God of Destiny grants her followers vision deeper than insight. So overall, this says to me that Klothys is going to be a red-green planeswalker. And that makes perfect sense, because that's the same color. Like, speaking from a mechanical standpoint right now and not a actual flavor standpoint, Zetas Ghost was a big feature in the whole like red-green area of Magic. So having her, like Zetas Ghost is gone now, having her rise up to take that place in the representation of the color wheel makes absolute sense from just the standpoint of, okay, we're going to need like something beefy, some beefy red-green mythic kind of setup. So that's where she's going to come in, I believe. Now, we don't have the card, so I can't say that for certain. Understand everything I'm saying here overall. Not everything, but the majority of things that I'm saying are speculation. Wizards has already confirmed through their one little, like, the mechanic video on the escape mechanic talks about Klothys. That's where we actually see the image of her for the first time, and it talks about how she escaped from the underworld, and as a result of that, the underworld is leaking. Everything is not as it should be. But this design card, again, when we take a look at the artwork, you can see the threads of fate, the threads of destiny, also known as her hair, whipping out and coalescing this green power magic around these individuals on this cliff. These are believers of Klothys, and it looks like part of their devotion. Like, this is a really interesting piece of artwork in that if you take a look at it, you can see both of these people look like they're up on a cliffside. They both have their hands over their eyes, blind the same way that Klothys is, right? Because she has her hair bound across her eyes. So they are emulating her blindness while also following the destiny she is leading them towards. It does honestly look like they might walk off of a cliff, or it might just be that she's guided them to this cliff out of a sign of, like, basically you have to prove your devotion to me. And so they're blindly going where she leads them, and she leads them right to the edge of destruction to test their devotion, but then empowers them instead. And it's like, you've passed my test. Feel the power flow through you. So when I take a look at the cards that are available, it speaks to Klothys being someone who's interested in big, beefy creatures, right? She's interested in empowering people through their destiny. She's interested in gigantic creatures, and that has a very red-green feel to it, right? Caring about creatures with a big, beefy aspect is very much green, but also is very much red-green. So overall, that's where it falls for me. Klothys is definitely an interesting goddess. I want to know more about this. I want to know what the card specifically is. I want to see other cards around here, and I want to see the other gods from Theros, because the gods are super exciting. I still have a video planned on Theros. I know I keep saying that, and I will make the video. It is coming. But all this other stuff keeps popping up, so I'm just running all over the place, and honestly, speculating about this god felt like more fun today. So that's what I wanted to do. I appreciate you guys coming to hear my thoughts on this. I want to know what you guys think of all the information that's presented. Do you think that the assumptions that I'm making here, the speculation, is in line with what's going to happen? Are there details that I may have missed? Because I don't always catch everything. Is there something you noticed that I didn't, that either adds to the argument that I'm making or goes against it? Either way, I want to know your thoughts. I do very much enjoy making videos. Speaking of making videos, I have a brand new release on my other channel of a video where me and my lady tried vegan jerky. Vegan jerky. Can you imagine? You don't have to imagine. You can go and watch it. I will link it at the end of the video. What I'll do is I'll put up some videos from this channel and my other channel. I encourage you to come on over there. We are having a hilarious fun time. I guarantee that you will like it. So, I mean, that guarantee doesn't come with anything. It's not like you get anything if it turns out you didn't like it. So, you know, don't come back, I didn't like it, because then I don't care. I don't care, all right? So, everybody, thanks for coming by. Big shout out to my patrons and channel members. Thank you very much for supporting my channel. And I will see all of you lovely people tomorrow. Now, go watch me be unhappy about vegan jerky.